Well, good morning, everybody. Get my notes up here. I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to Somewhat Daily Tarot and Rune for the first day of July 2020. Well, we made it into another month. Masks are going to be required everywhere in businesses here starting today in Oregon. Yay. Finally, finally. We'll see, though, how they enforce it over here. I don't know. I'll be surprised. I'll be pleased, but surprised. We have a one energy today, so it's a day of new beginnings, letting go of the past perceptions that are no longer working for you. I suspect that a lot of this, especially as the mask orders, because I don't think it's just Oregon. Let me get situated here better. I don't think it's just Oregon that's doing this. I think it's other states as well that are going to require this. We're just spiking here, and we haven't had as much as the rest of the country, or as a lot of states in the country, because some states just haven't, but it will, and it will wash over everything like they want it to. Yeah, idiots. But how stupid are these people? But in any event, as the summer goes on, where I live, it's a tourist destination. This is a resort area. We've got Eagle Crest, which is a resort. There's some other resorts here. Just the whole tourist aspect of Central Oregon. You've got fishing, hunting, camping, hiking, skiing, all kinds of things. Usually we have a balloon thing, in I think June. I don't know that they had it this year, though. They may not have. It's called Balloons Over Bend. I mean, we have all kinds of stuff here, and concerts, all kinds of things. So this is a place people come, and when they do, and they don't know they're sick, then they're depositing all of that everywhere. So to think that it's not going to go everywhere, of course it will. If not now, in the fall. So that's why they're doing it, and that's fine. I'm glad. Truthfully, it's a nightmare going out, especially here in our area. There's just not enough people that are wearing masks and wearing protection. One of the things too that I was watching Lake Project yesterday, that he put up something about 5 days ago. He did an interview with Doc Ram. I talked about this on the Esoteric Influences too. Doc Ram's cool. Richard Allen Miller. He was talking about homeschooling and doing some online on schooling for kids, because it doesn't look like they're going to go back to school. Which we ultimately pulled ours out, and we let them homeschool the rest of the way. And then they went on to college, and they're making lots of money and now in their careers. But so homeschooling works. It really does. It's just you have to be able to do it, obviously. And so he's just trying to provide an avenue to do that with some online classes for the kids, but he's cool. He's got an occult background, but he's also a physicist, and he knows everybody. Everybody knows him in the business, so to speak. In the ceremonial, he's a magus. He's a ceremonial magician and all of that. He's very cool. We like it. So whenever we can listen to what Doc Ram has to say, we do. And he just flat said, we should have been doing this social distancing 10 years ago. We should have been getting ready for this, in other words, and getting it in the mindset that when a new contagion comes out, that we have to take some precautions. And we would just all be ready for it, and we'd do it, and it'd be fine, and there wouldn't be any political issues surrounding it, and you wouldn't have Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick of Texas once again, saying, well, I don't think, Dr. Fauci makes any sense, and he doesn't know what he's talking about. Really? Really? Because before you said that grandma needs to die for the Tao. Yeah, that's what I mean. These are idiots. They're just idiots. I don't know what else they are. They're idiots. They're stupid. And they're in positions of authority where they get interviewed, and they spew this crap, and people get sick because they listen to them. They go, oh, okay, well, he says I don't have to do anything. Well, yeah, you do. Wear a mask. It's that simple. Just wear a mask. And the other thing Doc Ram said is that it's not just the mask, it's gloves. You got to have gloves on, because it's not just the droplets you worry about. It's when you go to the check stand and you do your little card and you do put in your code. If you don't have gloves on, you're touching virus. Guaranteed. Right now, you're touching virus. You risk it every single time. And if they don't clean, like I was in Wilco yesterday, and they had You didn't have to they had like I don't know what it was. It was like a vinyl or some kind of plastic. I mean, clear kind. Or was it Wilco or was it Lowe's? Maybe it was Lowe's. Maybe it was Lowe's. Anyway, one of those stores had some kind of vinyl covering over the card reader. And so you're not actually touching the keys, and then they can then wipe it off, right? They can disinfect it. So that was kind of an interesting thing. You don't see that at most places. But maybe that's what they need to do too, is just put kind of some kind of cover over it, and then it can be washed, it can be cleaned, it can be disinfected, right? So that happened. That was kind of interesting. I hadn't seen that before. Wilco had a sign going in there that if you don't have a mask, we'll gladly give you one. Just stop by the desk and get one. So evidently they were preparing maybe for today, because today is when you have to have a mask on in the stores starts here in Oregon. So thank you, Governor Brown, for doing that. It'll make me feel better. I know it's making my husband feel better. So, yay. Anyway, we're in a one energy for today, 7 months. So bring everything to balance and take stock and take a step back, let things settle before making decisions. And this is a time to observe before acting right now. This month will give you that energy and that space to do that, and it will work for you. So, rather than just jumping to conclusions or whatever, just take a step back and wait and see. So, in any event, if this is your first time here, I chat a little bit as I shuffle. Otherwise, the same cards come up, so we don't want that. But again, if it's your first time here, thank you so much for coming by. If you come back, thank you so much. Click subscribe. I'd love you to do that. And there's links below the video, different stuff. Check them out. But there's links to where I am. You can follow me everywhere. And also, I follow back. So it's not a one-way street. So I also have, there's Stepping Aside that's the name of my blog. You can go over there and give that a like or follow it or whatever. Also, it's a witch and herbalism blog. Stepping Aside has a Facebook page. I have a Facebook page as well. So but the links to that are all underneath the blog, or not all underneath the blog, all underneath the video. I say I get talking about the blog, and then, But anyway, I did a tarot reading, a Heindel tarot reading that I posted on Medium yesterday. I forgot to say that, I guess, on Esoteric Influences, but yeah, I did, and it turned out pretty well. I like the Heindel tarot. It's gorgeous. This is one of my favorite cards, and it's in the reading. It's the star. But look at it. The ancient goddess, literally her body coming out of the rocks, part of the earth mother, washing her hair in the pool below, pouring blessings onto the earth as the water flows from her hair. But you see what I mean? He includes runes, Hebrew glyphs, astrological glyphs. I mean, the astrological glyphs are normal. But then if you look at the smaller cards, you're going to see that gives way to the I Ching hexagrams. You can see up there at the top. That's the Eight of Cups, or failure. It's a very esoteric, earthy, cultural type of a deck, different than even a lot of the non-traditional decks. But they just take a different, more pagan look at things, I guess, maybe, a more old world look at things. I don't know. It's just the coolest deck. I had heard about it years ago, and I finally bought it a few years back, and I've never regretted working with it. You have to really read a lot of Rachel Pollack's stuff because she did the interpretations for this, and it's amazing. It's just amazing. So lots of different decks to work with, though. I work with the Rider-Waite here, just a very traditional deck, and so we'll go ahead and get started and take our first 3 cards. And I do take the 13th one each time for randomness sake. Oops. Well, we have the Hierophant, card 5 of the Major Arcana, the Pope, original, well, I've got my my Visconti deck over here. I'm actually related to them, by the way. Anyway, Bianca had this one commissioned, or her husband had a commission for Bianca. Maybe that's what it was. And this was, I think, in the 1400s, I believe, when this happened. 1300s or 1400s, but I think it was 1400s. Anyway, they I'll show you here in a second. They commissioned this deck, and it's interesting. It's really them, basically. But it was back at the time when the Pope, in other words, instead of the Hierophant like it's called now, it was the Pope. And sometimes that was Pope Joan. So sometimes it was a woman. And so that's how the Hierophant actually came to be. I mean, it almost looks like Pope Joan, doesn't it? And that may have been what they did here. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if the Rider-Waite portrays Pope Joan or not. But that's not a man's face. So I've always thought that was interesting. I'll show you this deck, though, here in a second. Let me get these cards pulled out, though. I don't just do readings. I show people things. We discuss runes, we explode them, we figure out what's contained within them. So this is a little more than a reading most of the time. So anyway, we have the Page of Pentacles, the Earth element, messages, new beginnings. I kind of like to align the pages. Sometimes they're called princesses in other decks. I like to align them with the Fool and the Aces, because there's this energy of undeveloped potential with all of it. And so if you're looking at things in terms of grouping, you have the Fool that starts the whole process by taking the leap of faith into form. But then from there, cards 1 through 21 are his or its, because it's actually an androgynous being before the leap takes place. Once that takes place, then we know which gender that person is, but we don't know until that happens. And so you have the rest of it is how he manages to get through life. And then you've got the smaller cards, the minor arcana, the four suits, right, that get even more into the minutia of our lives. And then you've got the court, which is an outlier. And so, but again, it has its own progression from youth to older people and the authority that they have, see. And really, it's all about stages in our lives. That's what it's all about. Well, here we have shared purpose. This is one of my favorite cards in this deck. The Six of Cups. Cups is the water element. Intuition, empathy, compassion, love, shared abundance, shared purpose, shared direction. Beginning to have the awareness of the collective is essentially what I'm saying. But let's go ahead and talk about this in terms of a message. We'll talk about the Hierophant first. It's about divine wisdom, mercy, not surrender versus control, but hidden knowledge and the teacher. We're looking here, we see the tri-level Pope crown. The Pope's crown is tri-level. So there's triplicity contained within that. You see the 3 ticks on the scepter. You see here 2 fingers plus the thumb. There's another 3. You see 3 crosses on his well, whatever this white thing is. I'm not Catholic. I'm not Christian, so I don't know the names of some of this stuff, and I've looked and I can't seem to find it. If I really put my mind to it, I probably could find it. Could Google something about what priests wear, but in any event, I'm not sure. But if you look down on his feet, you see the other 2, which then aligns with the 5. He sits between 2 pillars. He has 2 monks before him. You see the keys of knowledge there at his feet. If we look at this in terms of patriarchy, we're going to talk about it a different way, so let's not, because I don't like that. It's really at the root of all of our issues, particularly religiously. The patriarchy that we're having to cope with right now, it's almost like it's the last vestiges of it. And that's why we're seeing all the police violence. It's why we're seeing the violence from our president against the country. We're seeing it's why it's okay to have a bounty out on soldiers, and we don't do anything about it. We don't tell anybody. We just act like it's nobody's business or whatever. We ignore it. We let it happen. That's shameful, and it's impeachable. And he should be put out right now. Right now. Right now. Right now. Yeah, right now. Not tomorrow, not 5 minutes from now, right now for doing that. And everybody that was involved in the cover-up of it needs to go too. As far as I'm concerned, they can all go to prison for this. This is outrageous. It's outrageous. My veteran husband, he's livid. He's just livid. I mean, he gets so livid he can't even speak. There's a video out, and you should look for it. If you're on Twitter, you'll see it. It's all over the place there. It's this guy who was, I think, a former Navy SEAL, youngish. He's an ER doc now. I think he's a Republican. Oh, he lets the president have it. He lets Trump have it. You should see it. I'm not going to tell you anymore. If you haven't seen it, go there. Find it. Oh, it's brutal. You do this to soldiers? You think you're going to have any support from any of them? Oh, no. So the message, back to the point, back to the reading before I got upset. Oh, there's just so many things to get upset about these days, though, aren't there? Yeah. This is just, but this bridge too far. Bridge too far. Grandma dying for the Dow, that's bad enough. Bounties on our soldiers, oh, no, you don't. Oh, no, you don't. We have a message today having to do with our foundation, our physical foundation. New direction, perhaps. He's holding the pentacle, or what have you up there, the coin, the large coin. Holding it up to spirit. Having spirit bless. You see the vitality. You don't see the sun, but you see the sun's effect on the new day. It could be, in a personal life, it could signal a birth, but the birth of what? Maybe it's a child. But the birth of a new path, maybe. One predicated upon message from spirit. Because we're going to think of this as a goddess in disguise, okay? That's a woman. This is Pope Joan. Not a guy. They drew it right. See, this is the problem, all right? And this is my own decision or my own interpretation or my own idea about this. I don't know if other people will agree with me. But it seems to me that, especially now when you look at the tarot decks that are more non-traditional, you're looking at people who are trying to make a point. And so they're putting their own perspective, their own tradition, their own belief structure into these cards when they're drawing them and then painting them. And then either they do the interpretations or like Heindel did, they get Rachel Pollack to do it, or someone like her. There's a lot of great tarot readers that have written a lot of great books out there that are they're outstanding at what they do. I took a class in tarot because I'd been working so much with non-traditional decks that I just wanted to review Rider-Waite, and that's what this gal was doing. Sal Jade, she's great, and she got me thinking a little more in terms of Rider-Waite stuff in a more cohesive fashion than I was before. It felt more fragmented because I was used to interpreting the Thoth tarot, which is, crazy. And so I just gravitate toward things that feel energetic to me, and Thoth did. The way Lady Frida Harris did those paintings, it was just incredible. And it's filled with so much energy and so much life, so much spirit. I just react to it. And so I'd been doing a lot of that. And so I took a course from her, and it really gelled everything together for me, because you get out of the habit, you get out of the practice of it when you're doing this other weird stuff, right? So then you get back to basics. It's like, okay, well, I was trying to interpret them the other way, some of the other ways that I was doing, and it wasn't resonating. And so anyway, I took that course from her, and it was great. I recommend her. But anyway, I suspect what they did vis-a-vis the Pope and the Hierophant card. I don't know if I have one, if it's going to be easy to find that here. These aren't, actually, they're not, this is one of them. This is probably Justice. But you see, it doesn't have the name. So you have to look in the book to see which is which, you know? This would be the Lovers. That's Bianca over here. And that's her husband. And I'm related to these people. It's just so bizarre. Every time I see something, I go and I check my ancestry and like, yep. But then, I'm of Merovingian descent, so there you go. You're related to royalty everywhere. It's nutty. I had no idea. I went looking for witches. I hit the mother lode. I really did. I had no idea I was in the line I'm in. No idea I was in that bloodline. That's one of the 13 Illuminati bloodline families, the Merovingians. It started the whole thing. All the Caputs and all those people, they and the Plantagenets, all of them, they're all together in this. And from that, what we have now, the families, the cabal we talk about, the banksters, all of that kind of stuff, that's where it started, with those people. And they're the ones with the divine right of kings. But what is that? That was just what the extraterrestrials established before they left. Whether they were hybrids initially, the pharaohs and the other kings, it was supposed to go through a bloodline so that it would preserve the genetic effect of the extraterrestrials. Because as we all bred with one another, that effect got less. And we got more of a mishmash and a hodgepodge of DNA, which is what was supposed to really happen, I guess. But the divine right of kings, they're directly related to these people. And if you're in that line, which most of us are somewhere, well, all of us are somewhere, not most. All of us are. Some of us have more direct lineage, but they're saying that. But that's the whole idea behind divine right of kings. It's not that it's divine. It's that it's been conferred on the people that genetically manipulated us, and they wanted people close to their genetic line to be in charge when they weren't here. Stupid, right? But that's what they did. So the message then for the page is that we have something new on the horizon here that's predicated on spirit. Then how do we manifest it in shared abundance with others? I love this card. You see the little X down there on that pedestal? That's Gebo. Balanced energy exchange with others. You see the white lilies? That's purity and love and compassion. The cups are filled with flowers, so we're healing today. It's a 6 energy, so it's higher self. It's just random acts of kindness. Remember when we used to do that? Letting somebody go in front of you in a grocery line? Well, now it's you can get 6 feet in front of me if you want to do that. But it's just the little random acts of kindness that people do for one another. And kind of hard to do that right now, but now is the time we need it the most. So I think for today, the suggestion from the reading is to go ahead and let's see, 5 and 6 is 11. So we've got an 11 reading, 11 numerology for it. So again, aligning with the Hierophant and higher self message. 11 is about the, I hope I get Issa out of this. That would be cool because that's the 11th rune of the Elder Futhark. So we have, and the 11 is a master number for enlightenment and illumination, awakening. It's time we awaken, that we awaken to the truth that we're all in this together and that we should have never been at odds with one another. Look, being on the same shared path doesn't mean we won't have differences of opinion about what that looks like. It's how progress is made. Well, I did one better. It's not these. The 10th rune of the Elder Futhark, New Beginnings, aligning with today, a 1 energy. It's the friction within to manifest. So again, what are we going to manifest and where is it coming from? Well, what we have here with not these, if I can find my pen, we have Issa, with a line diagonally going through it. So in a sense, you got Isa twice. And what's Isa? It's alignment and spirit. We could cross it, and that would be the abyss, but we don't. Instead, we have it more heavily weighted on spirit. You see that? It's a fire element rune, and it's basically about the friction within to manifest. So what are we going to manifest? Are we going to manifest a new direction today? Oh, I think we can. Especially if you're in a state where things are being required of you now. Since you couldn't do it by yourself. Anyway, and that's the path. You know, Doc Ram talked about on a Leak Project that we watched yesterday that was kind of basically suggesting that in the future, and he's done this. I think he did. He said he did it in Chattanooga. He and a partner. He calls them lifeboats or life rafts or so. Anyway, it's a way of producing food. And how he envisions this, it's sort of like if you've ever listened to Michael Tellinger talk about Ubuntu, what that is basically, and I'm not going to do it justice, of course. So you should listen to what he has to say on this. But basically, what you're talking about is like a utopian type of a thing. It'd be like if everybody lived communally, and they pooled their resources to grow things, and they brought everything to the main square, and everybody just took what they wanted, what they needed. No money, no exchange. Well, what the city, I guess, of Chattanooga did is they took his plan, and now they've got gardens everywhere growing things. They're growing their own food. They produce a lot of their own food, or all of it. I don't know what they do, but they produce a lot of their own vegetables and fruits and whatnot, I guess. I had never heard this before. And that's the idea with the Ubuntu thing as well. We're working together in some kind of a localized group. Instead of having everything being trucked across the country, in other words, it's grown right there in your community. It's not that you won't have that sort of thing, obviously, but the idea is to have more centralized community experience. And that's how we live. And so we interact with one another. We grow with one another. We protect one another. We elevate one another. It's that type of a mindset or mentality. And it's almost like that's what we've got here today. Predicated on spirit. Okay, I'll put him down, or her down. We move on a new shared path together. Influenced by higher self. Influenced by spirit, influenced by who we are as souls in these bodies. Letting soul guide the experience. That's the Ubuntu experience. That's the collective experience that we need to start having. We need to return to that. He was talking also, Doc Ram was, about how we don't teach kids how to grow anything. It's taken out of schools. We ended up homeschooling, so, our kids know how to do that. But the bottom line is we don't, and here where we live, it's a rural area, farming, that kind of rural area. And so our high school here did have agriculture, because they had farm equipment. They did. And so I don't know. I pulled the kids out. My oldest tried high school for a week after being home for a year and a half. He took some classes. He didn't like it, came back home. And then I GED'd them both. I let them do that when they were 16, and then they continued to homeschool a bit, and then they went into college. I did that. The reason I let them GED at 16 is because I felt that they could do high school concurrent enrollment. Homeschool kids did that up at the local community college, and they could take 2 courses a term under that. And they did that prior to GEDing. So they were actually in college, I think at 15, 14. I think the first one might have been, was he still 14? He might have still been 14, and then he turned 15 in August. And he took a visual basic course in fall term, and instead of just doing a module, he did a whole database. Why not? And so, but it wasn't the assignment. And at the end, at the end, where it's the end of the program, when you're closing it out, this thing comes out, I'm 15, blinking, right? I think it was blinking. Anyway, or I told him to do that. I think he did it. Point is that the way going forward, depending on what our environment's going to be like, if we're going to have more of what we're dealing with, in other words, how we do things in life is going to have to change. And maybe how we educate our kids is going to have to change. And like I said, you know, once they got their GED, they could go full time up at the college if they wanted to, or they could stay home for a little while longer, work if they wanted to, and do both, and then go on. And so they both did a variety of kind of a combination of the two, and they've done well, you know. But it's being able to think outside the box and not going along with the crowd. And that's where higher self-involvement comes, okay? It's the ability to see the bigger picture and to understand that things don't have to be pigeonholed into how we do them all the time, that we can look at something and say, well, even as something as important as educating our kids, that maybe the way we do it isn't exactly what they need. Because if you get out of the way of your kids, you're going to watch magic happen. And I'll guarantee you that. You give them what they need, and they're going to run with it. They do it every time. Kids are natural learners. They're naturally curious. It has not been, society and the world has not, dumbed them down. They haven't. And if you homeschool them, oh my Lord. When we did it, I called this lady who's doing it, right? It was some friends of my kids, and they pulled out the year before, so they weren't in school that year. And I called, and Mom wasn't home, but Grandma was. I probably talked to her for over an hour and a half. Now here's Grandma saying, "Oh no, honey, you have to do this. You won't believe the change in your kids when you do. You won't believe it." So we did it. The younger one never went to school after 4th grade. He never went back to public school. The older one tried it, and it's like, this is ridiculous. He had one class, took him 40-minute class, took the teacher 20 minutes to calm the class down just to teach anything. And the kids that were there, kids that would have never been disrespectful to a teacher when he was in school, just after a year and a half, these kids were mouthing the teachers in ways that my son was just, he'd come out, he'd go, "I can't believe what so-and-so just said to the teacher. I can't believe that." So, yeah, I mean, this is a time where things are loosening in this country, and it's because of the virus. Oops, I almost got my teeth on my Heindel cards. But yeah, this is a time where things are loosening up with all of this stuff that's happening. I mean, did you ever think that you would start to see policing change and police departments change? Did you ever think that would happen? I didn't. Well, look what we've got. They're all changing now, aren't they? Well, they're going to. Suddenly, it's not going to be okay to hurt people. Never should have been to begin with, should it? So we're seeing a lot of things happen right now that we never thought would. I mean, did you ever think that there would be a question over whether or not you had to wear a mask, or when there's a pandemic, that people would start to see that as an impingement on their freedom and their and their constitutional rights to do as they please? This is the point. Higher self is not informing those folks. It just isn't. Instead, it's ego. So today, maybe we make some baby steps with Fortuna Minor. We had Fortuna Major, I don't know if it was yesterday. I wonder if I still have that little one from yesterday. I think, oops, sorry. I might have already thrown it out, but we had Fortuna Major one day, and before I talked about it, I talked about Fortuna Minor, and I talked about it in terms of baby steps. And I said that it would be like with a contractor or a shop that does progress billings, because you got a long project and you got to have money coming in. And so you take money down, and then this section of the project we're going to charge for, we're going to bill for, and then we're going to bill for this one, and then we're going to bill for this one at the close, and then you won't owe everything. You'll have paid it in stages. Well, that's similar, the type of similar energy that Fortuna Minor is talking about. So we're talking about small successes today. Now, that might mean to some people, okay, I'll begrudgingly wear a mask. Now, to me, that's a Fortuna Major, but I don't know, maybe not. Depends on your perspective. This is Fortuna Minor. This is Fortuna Major. But we're talking about small success today. Steady progress, even. Okay? So I would suggest to you that that's probably what you're going to experience today. And just allow higher self to inform the way forward. Express shared abundance in your life with others. And see what happens. Watch the synchronicities. Listen to your intuition. Listen to what you know. And understand the greater picture. So, in any event, thanks for watching. Come back. Let's see, today's Wednesday. I got one more day of this. But do check out the esoteric influences on the blog and also the video I do. I do those every day. I'd only do this one, though, 4 days a week. So tomorrow's the last day of it for the week. And check for correspondences and astrological information to go up on the blog. I do that most days. I don't always do it on the weekends, but I should. It's got the current astrological outlook from an esoteric standpoint. The kinds of things I include are not going to necessarily be something all astrologers. I'm not an astrologer, I'm a witch. So I use that kind of stuff in magical workings and in the tarot readings and all of that and the rune readings. But so it's sort of an adjunct for me. But I like it, and I've been studying it for a while, and for quite a while, most of my life. But, you know, I sort of branched off into I bought this book by Myrna Loftus years and years, like maybe, I don't even know, it was in the 80s, I think. I don't think it'd been out very long. It's called A Spiritual Approach to Astrology, and that's where my first foray into esoteric astrology began, and from there was Alice Bailey and Blavatsky and Douglas Baker and all that. I think it's Douglas Baker. Is that his name, Douglas Baker? Anyway, Ledbetter, those guys. That's where I started learning about the esoteric side of it. Usually when you see a horoscope done, it's the traditional astrology, which is fine. It's just that the planets that rule are different in esoteric astrology, and if you think about them, you can kind of see why it's so. But there's just a lot that's different, and you're thinking about the rising sign or the ascendant when you're born in your natal chart more so than you're really thinking about your sun sign. And so you're seeing the motivation, you're seeing what your soul's purpose is with that, and so I guess I've always been attracted to that, and so that's more of what's in that top section. And then the bottom section is just it. You know, if it's a Wednesday, it's going to be the same thing each Wednesday because it's the magical correspondences for Wednesday. And what that means is it lists the kinds of things that you would grab if you're going to work a spell. So it would list the candles, it would list the colors, it would list the stones, the runes, the herbs, the goddesses, the deities, in other words, the elements. What's the element today? What's the numerology for today, for that particular day? So you're looking at those kinds of things, magical influences, magical timing, all of that, that's all there. And so rather than having to open up the grimoire, you could simply look there and grab what you needed. So just as a quick reference, and that's really all it's designed to be. But it's there for people who are working magic and maybe they don't have their grimoire with them, and it's like, oh, I need to do something. I need to do something about this. And if they can't remember, what do I need there? What was that again? You can go there to imsteppingaside.com, click on the day, and hopefully there is one that day. It's not the weekend and I haven't, slacked or anything, but then you can just look and figure out what you need. So anyway, that's there. But I guess that's it. I guess that's all I have to say today. So please be safe out there. Follow the mask procedures and the requirements if you have them. Even if you don't, follow them anyway and wear one, please. Please. So thanks so much again for watching, and click subscribe if you hadn't. Come back tomorrow and share this time with us as we chat about how divination and all the different esoteric influences we can derive from it can influence and enhance our lives. So have a wonderful day. Be good to yourself, be good to one another, wear a mask, and blessed be.